Hey everybody! So today we're starting a new unit in CKLA, and I'm really excited because this unit is my most favorite thing to study. This is what I studied in college when I went because I love it so much, and it's all about living things and how they interact with the environment, how they live with the environment, and how the environment affects them. Okay, we're going to be learning about ecology. And these lessons are pretty quick and easy. I'm going to be reading one chapter from your reader for the read aloud, and then your job will be to read the next chapter. So today I'm going to read chapter 1 from your reader, and you're going to fill out, as you're listening, activity page 1.1, which is right here. Okay, and what this is before we start, you need to make a prediction about these statements. So we're going to say, is this true or false for each one? I'm going to show you how I'll do it, but I'm not going to give you the answers. I'm just going to give you an example. Don't copy my example. So for this one, I'm going to say that it's true, and I'm going to say, this one says flowers depend only on bees to spread their pollen. I'm going to say false. A squirrel's favorite food is candy. True. Acorns are candy. False. Squirrels always remember where every acorn is buried. False. Okay, so I just picked a couple here. I don't want you to just guess. If you think you know, say true or false for these. Okay, we're on activity page 1.1. At the end of the reading today, we're going to go back and say if it's true or false and what page it was on in our reader. Okay? So let's get started. Ecology is about nature and life. It is about the relationships between living things and their environment. Someone who studies ecology is an ecologist. An ecologist studies living things and the way they relate to their surroundings. This toad is part of an ecosystem. An ecosystem is like a habitat where an organism lives, but it includes many habitats plus the non-living systems that support them. In an ecosystem, each living thing depends on other living and non-living things for survival. Insects find shelter and food on trees and in moss. The toad finds those insects and eats them. The toad depends on rainfall to supply a place to lay eggs. One day, maybe a snake will eat the toad. These are the kinds of things ecologists like to think about. If you were listening, you heard the word organism, and you might want to write that down or to make a flashcard to remember that word because we're going to talk about it a lot. It means any living thing. So you're an organism, a dog is an organism, and a toad is an organism. The bee is attracted to the flower's bright color. The bee eats the flower's sweet nectar. The flower is also full of pollen. Pollen is a substance that looks like dust. When the bee buzzes off, it carries some of the flower's pollen away on its feet and wings. To make seeds, flowers must share their pollen with other flowers. Flowers do not have hands or feet or other ways to get their pollen to other flowers, so they depend on bees and other insects to spread it for them. The bee needs the flower in order to survive. The flower needs the bee and other insects in order to survive. These are perfect examples of the kind of relationships ecologists like to study. Here is another living thing you probably recognize, a squirrel. She is a little surprised to see you. This squirrel does not see people every day. She is not one of those squirrels you see skittering along branches in the park or your backyard. Instead, this squirrel lives deep in the forest. She has a nest of leaves and sticks somewhere way up high in this tree. In the springtime, the mother squirrel shared her nest with her babies. But now it is late summer. The babies have left the nest. The mother has the nest to herself. It is time for her to gather food for the winter. This squirrel's favorite food is acorns, which are nuts from oak trees. In the summer, it is easy for the squirrel to go out and find plenty of acorns, but the squirrel must also gather and save food for winter. In the winter, acorns won't be so easy to find. The squirrel uses her little paws to dig a hole in the ground. She buries an acorn. Over the summer and early fall, she may bury hundreds of them. Then, whenever she gets hungry during the winter, she can crawl out of her nest and go dig up an acorn. It is easy to see how the squirrel depends on the tree. She uses the tree for both food and shelter. However, the squirrel also gives something to the tree. How do you think the squirrel remembers where she buried all those acorns? Can she smell them? Does she put a little stick in the ground to mark each acorn? Does she draw a map on the back of a leaf? Actually, she does not remember where she planted all those acorns. She forgets a lot of them. Many of those acorns will remain in the ground right where she buried them. Acorns are nuts. Nuts are seeds and shells with shells covering them. Like most seeds, acorns need to be planted in order to sprout and grow. Well, the squirrel did the oak tree a favor by planting all those acorns and then forgetting about them. If the acorns weren't buried, they probably would not sprout and might be eaten by another animal. The squirrel and the oak tree are each doing what they do to survive and produce young. The tree grows leaves and acorns. The squirrel uses the leaves for shelter and the acorns for food. This makes it possible for the squirrel to survive and produce young. Also, because the squirrel buries acorns, the oak tree is able to produce young too. This is how things work in an ecosystem. This is what ecology is all about. Okay, so that's the end of our read aloud. Pretty quick, right? And we're going to go back to our anticipation guide on activity page 1.1, and we are going to decide what is true and what is false. So this says ecology is about nature and life. Do you think it's true or false? And if you're not sure, check the page in your reader, okay? I'm not going to go through all of these with you, but I am going to go through one just to give you an example of my thinking. This says flowers depend only on bees to spread their pollen. So let's go back to the reader to where the bee section was. And here I see the bee section. And it says, so they depend on bees and other insects to spread it for them. So do they depend only on bees or do they depend on other insects too? It says they depend on other insects too. And some of those insects are flies and butterflies, even, it doesn't say this, but even hummingbirds pollinate flowers. So it's not true that flowers depend only on bees, okay? And I found that, I'm looking on page 4. So right here, I'm going to write page 4. Okay, so that's what you're going to do for the rest of the activity page. When you're done, you are going to go to the next chapter in your reader, which is chapter 2 about food chains, and you're going to answer the questions on activity page 2.2. Hold on, I'm just scrolling down to it. It's a long ways away. Here, nope, still not it. Still not it. Where are you? Food chains. Well, I'll post it on our website. But anyways, I'll tell you which activity page to go to and which page number to go. Oh, this is it right here. Activity page 2.3. Okay, so it's on page 25. That's the activity page you're going to answer about this chapter. Okay, good luck.